In this video, which is part 17 of how to create a custom candlestick chart in Chart.js, we're going to focus basically on the drag functionality, which allows us to create a zoom box. So if I click here right now, you can see here we get this item here, which recognizes our starting point. And this will become later on very important because this functionality is a quite extensive one. So we will cover this in multiple videos. So let's start with the basics here, having a starting point. So let's continue on, and now what we want to do here is basically create this so-called drag zoom functionality. This drag zoom functionality is quite challenging, so we have probably multiple videos covering this. So let's start to work on the basics. First of all, what I want to do is I want to have a so-called force starting and ending point here. That's the default. So to do that, I'm going to scroll down here, and then somewhere in the options, scroll down more. There we are. Then I want to go to the x-axis in the scale, and then within here what I want to do is I want to set a minimum and maximum value, and basically the minimum value would be the index 0. That's basically the one, but I need to do this programmatically because I need to grab something here at the very top, basically the very first value here. So how do we get in there? Well, let's go back here and let me show you exactly how. So in here, I'm going to use a callback functionality, and I'm going to say here minimum value, and then this will be here a CTX, and then I'm going to say here a arrow function expression, comma, and then I'm going to say here console log, and the console log will consist of the CTX. If I refresh, open up developer tab, and you can see here it loads it multiple times. Don't worry about that. What we need to do here is to open up the object here, and we are in the chart, so we need to go into the chart, and then from the chart we're going to scroll down here and we're going to look at the data. Let's see here, that's this one here. Once we click on this, we have here the data sets, and then we can grab here the specific index, and the specific index in this case would be data, again data, and then the index 0, and then x value. So this is very important to have. So how do we get there? I'm going to say here chart.data.datasets index 0.data index 0.x. So this, if I now save, I should just grab here the time of the very first element or index. So that's the first one. So this is all right, but of course what I want to say here, I want to say here return this value. Once I did that, this will be our item. If I save that, refresh, nothing truly happens here, as you can see. But now if I'm going to change this to 1, save, refresh, you can see it changes here, and look, now we have the red bar, or sorry, the green bar instead of the red bar, which is June number 2. So this works very nicely. I'm going to put it back on 0, and I'm going to duplicate this methodology or this chunk of code and just put that in there. And then I'm going to say here max, and the max will have, of course, here the maximum value. So for that, to get the max, this one requires a index length basically. So what I'm going to do here, enter, I'm going to grab all of this data here, put that in there, and then we say here dot length. If I do this, I should get here a specific value. Well, we can say here constant length. I will be doing it like that, very simple, or max length. Max length is probably a better description. Minus 1 value, because the index array starts with 0. So it's a 0-based calculation, so copy that, put it in there. Save this, refresh. Now we have here, and this should be June 10, that is correct. If I put this on, well, -2, we should have here June 9. There you are, June 9, and this shows the value here. Alright, so this works all fine and beautiful. So now we have this done. Scroll down here, and now we're going to work with the most complicated part. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to put in here the specific item, or at least we want to make sure it recognizes a dragging functionality here. And the reality of our drag is now is we want to drag, but our drag should make eventually a selection area for zooming. So we're not going left to the right. That is possible as well, but if we have one type of drag, we cannot do another type of drag as well on the canvas. So we need to select it. I'm going to do it this way. If you want other ways like scrolling, zoom and everything, I have a whole video series about the coin market cap chart, which I highly recommend you to watch as well if you want to do that. Because there's so many different advanced stuff as well covering in there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here my chart, because I'm going to grab the chart object and then say dot canvas, and then we say here dot add event listener. So we're going to create an event listener, and this event listener will be the mouse down. And what this mouse down truly does is it will eventually start to recognize the starting drag. So I'm going to say comma event, we'll put an E here, and then here a function error expression. And then in here, I'm going to say here our function will be called drag start, and it consists of two parameters: the my chart object, which is just our object for the chart, and the event itself. So the moment we do this, it will start to understand something here. So if we're going to grab our function, we're going to say here drag start and just copy this, put it in here, but I'm going to change the names here. These parameters will be chart, and this one will be the, I'll call it the drag. So this is the starting drag basically. So then once I have that, what I want to do here, quite simple, is basically a simple function where we can just start to do something. Let's first test this. I'm going to say drag. If I save that, refresh, open up developer tab, and then now if I drag, as you can see, what is happening while I have my mouse down, because that's basically how the drag works. When I have my mouse down, it recognizes the starting point of the drag. This is very important because I need to have a starting point, and then after that, as I move to the left here or to the right, it should recognize a box here. So our starting point is crucial for this. So now we have basically this, and we can say here dot, you would say here the official item, then you can say here offset x, save that, refresh. And if I do this, you can see here the pixel amount as I click, or if I drag and I move, you can see like that. So now we have this part, and what I want to do as well is to add up here another item. What we can say here, we have here the drag start, but what I want to do, and I'm not sure if we need this or if this is truly necessary, but I'm going to check that later on. I'm going to do here window dot add event listener, and then what I'm going to do is here mouse up, and this here will trigger if we are within the window and do a mouse up button basically, or if we let go of the holding button of the mouse. So basically when our mouse goes up, and then we'll track this, and then what I want to do here is I want this to be cancelled. Nothing should happen then. So I'm going to say here my chart dot canvas dot on mouse move equals null. So just don't do anything. This might not be necessary, but I'm forcing this so that it will not be triggered anywhere else, because I want it eventually only to be triggered in the canvas, and this here should not do anything. If you are, for example, here and then let go, then maybe it will trigger there. So I will check later on if this is truly necessary, but this is just a, I just put here question mark, check later on, check later if needed. But this is just a protection for ourselves that it will not trigger outside of the window. So now we have this. In the next video, we'll continue on with our drag functionality.